Welcome, dear viewers of Turkish Spotlight Secrets, to your favorite corner where whispers gather courage, unasked questions find words, and feelings become the heart of a story. Before we slip into tonight's tale, the kind that brushes against memories and lingers in the soul, remember to subscribe, turn on the bell, and, if you wish to support our work in a more special way, hit the subscribe button to stay closer to our family. Tonight, we bring you a confession that has set social media and the world of Turkish television alight. On a seemingly ordinary evening, tucked into the warm murmur of a small cafe in the heart of Istanbul, Yağmur Yüksel breathed out a sentence like a secret escaping its vault. A whisper, but heavy as a stone across time, "I can't let go of Barış, but I'm scared to go back." Words not born of impulse, but the kind that grow in the dark and take root in silence, drop by drop, until even the strongest heart feels them. Those who sat with her that evening speak of a gaze floating between longing and caution, an expression that could not decide whether to dwell in what was or protect itself from what might be. Because the story between Yağmur Yüksel and Barış Baktas was never a trivial romance or a simple professional partnership. From the first moment they shared a set, you could feel that rare electricity that only two souls on the same frequency produce. Many called it professional chemistry, others, more sentimental, saw a bond that spilled past the cameras and scripts. And although neither ever gave the public a confession wrapped in a neat bow, their glances told on them, their pauses said as much as their lines, and their laughter, those half-hidden, careful bursts, betrayed a truth beneath the surface. Then, abruptly, the distance. No statements, no tidy interviews, no soothing explanation. Just silence. Silence that now, after that confession, feels like it was crowded with meaning all along, a hallway full of closed doors. "Sometimes I still wake up and wonder what would have happened if we hadn't drifted," Yağmur confided to a friend she trusts completely, her words flavored with a nostalgia that refuses to surrender. In that small admission lives a tug-of-war. The urge to melt back into the memory of a love that once felt inevitable, and the fear of orbiting once again around the shadows that led them apart. Fame's pressure does its work quietly and relentlessly. The comments, the endless speculation, love turning into a spectacle under a public magnifying glass, it had begun to sit heavily on Yağmur, like an invisible chain pressuring every step. "It felt like my story no longer belonged to me," she murmured one evening, and with that sentence you could hear old wounds stir, the kind that look healed until a touch proves otherwise. Protecting herself meant retreat, retreat brought silence, and silence, in time, became a language of its own. On the other side of this picture stands Barış Baktas, head down in projects, keeping busy, smiling when the cameras expect it, yet never entirely distant from the map of old emotions. It was hard to ignore a line he offered almost casually during an informal chat around a set light: "Some things refuse to fade." Heard on its own, it was harmless; heard now, against the echo of Yağmur's whisper, it sounds like a message delivered through the fog. A reply without names. A memory disguised as a sentence. And as always, when two stories tug at each other from across a gap, the public does not sit quietly. Within hours, timelines flooded with theories and wishful thinking. Some fans swore they saw Yağmur scrolling through old messages on a set break. Others claimed that Barış briefly shared a melody they used to play during rehearsals before hastily removing it. Maybe none of it is provable. But for those who care, every crumb turns into a trail, every tiny gesture into a map pointing toward hope. What pierced hearts most, however, was Yağmur's final acknowledgement that night: "If he reached out to me, I don't know if I'd be able to say no. I'm just afraid it will still hurt." Such vulnerability, so soft and unguarded, strikes a chord in anyone who has stood at the crossroads of unfinished love, the pull to return on one side and the dread of repeating the same ache on the other. "What if he's waiting on you?" her friend asked gently, cautious but curious, like someone holding a fragile cup they don't want to drop. The question suspended itself in the air, and for a long moment Yağmur said nothing, as if the possibility had just arrived in her chest and she needed to rearrange everything inside to make room for it. "What if you are both still written into each other's destinies?" her friend whispered later, careful not to step too hard where the ground was already cracked. In the days that followed, those close to Yağmur say she moved through the hours like someone navigating two currents at once. Thoughtful. Distracted. As if certain rooms in her mind had been reopened. She pulled out old letters, photographs she'd never deleted but kept tucked in a folder she avoided, trinkets with no purpose except the weight they carry. Maybe I was wrong, or maybe I wasn't, she told herself, restless in the spaces where certainty should have been. Meanwhile, on a set not far away, something happened that no one on the crew would soon forget. During a romantic scene, mid-dialogue, mid-breath, Barış stopped. Just stopped. He stared past the lights, past the lenses, to somewhere only he could see, a place where memory rose without warning. No explanation followed, just a small, private smile that said everything. Sometimes it takes exactly 1 second to admit a feeling never fully drained away. Television programs began airing specials about them, the kind that stitch old interviews and scenes into a new tapestry. Fans resurfaced their most iconic moments side by side, calling them fragments of a love story that only paused instead of ending. A journalist, direct as ever, recently asked Barış for a comment on Yağmur during a press day. He didn't say much, but what he said felt measured and sincere. She will always have a special place in my life. That was all it took to fan the embers into a glow. Not long after, in a glossy fashion interview, Yağmur offered a line that seemed aimed at no one and everyone: sometimes you step away to protect yourself, but the heart does not obey rules. She didn't say a name. But she didn't have to, and everyone listening felt the arrow land where it was meant to. Speculation multiplied, of course, and with it came a persistent rumor that sounds more like fate than scheduling. Both Yağmur Yüksel and Barış Baktas have been invited to the same charity gala in Istanbul in a few weeks' time. A social event, elegant and impossible to ignore, with cameras that love to catch stories turning corners. Is this where their paths will brush again, where distance collapses into a few steps across a crowded room? Fans are already preparing tributes and compilations, tiny digital offerings to a love they never stopped rooting for. People whisper about what they would say if either of them walks the red carpet with the other in sight, about the weight of a glance that means more than small talk ever could, about the electricity of an unscripted moment in the middle of glittering protocol. And in the hush before an answer appears, the biggest question remains, steady as a heartbeat: will time be kind enough, and courage strong enough, to piece back together what was never completely broken? Sometimes love is not a fire that fails, but a lamp set low, waiting for hands brave enough to turn the wick. The fear is real, yes, and so is the ache that memory carries like a secret letter. But so is the pull of what once felt like home. Imagine the gala night. Istanbul dressed in light. Music folding softly around voices. The clink of glasses that pretend not to tremble. A staircase where arrivals spill glitter down its spine. Yağmur steps in, grace with a pulse. Barış arrives, all careful charm. They are professionals, both of them, and the world will expect poise. But beneath the veneer, the same questions ride along: do I look? Do I hold my gaze? Do I survive it if I do? The cameras seek their moment from afar, not realizing the bravest moments happen in inches and seconds, where no lens fits and silence does all the talking. Some say if their eyes meet, it will be enough to change the weather inside the room. Some say nothing will happen at all, that grown-up choices harden and stay put. But those who have watched them from the beginning know that their story was written with pauses that feel like commas, not periods. What broke them wasn't hate or betrayal, it was the grinding noise of fame, the crowd in the room where only two should speak, the echo of opinions louder than feelings. If they are to try again, it won't be a reckless leap. It will be careful and deliberate, a promise made under their breath: we do this our way this time. Before we part tonight, we turn the question to you, the heart of Turkish spotlight secrets: should Yağmur and Barış give themselves that second chance? Do you believe distance can be a teacher rather than a thief? Which other artists would you like to see featured here next, as we follow the tender paths between fame and feeling? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, tap like, and support the channel by clicking the subscribe button. Your presence makes every story we tell possible. Until the next revelation, we'll be right here, where guarded truths find their voice and every whisper knows it will be heard.